as a parent of a daughter that would probably have gone through one of your programs, and like I said, I have an 18-year-old, and when I met you and I heard about everything you're doing, and then I listened to some of your podcasts, I'm like, sweetie, you need to start following this girl. And
Love
I
it.
was because like I just because as a parent, and maybe we could just talk about that as parents of athletes, we don't know what's going on in their heads.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're just like, oh my gosh, how can I help you get through this? Because, as
Yeah.
you know, young girls don't want to listen to their moms, or maybe they really do. But like maybe some moms do a really good job of connecting with their daughters. But I have two more coming up. So
Mm.
I know
Yeah.
I can learn from Shay. So why don't you talk about like how you went from your sport into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So growing up, I was a really good athlete, played soccer and basketball, but at age 12, I tore my ACL. So very young age to kind of go through that process. Obviously, physically, it was really difficult, but more so mentally. And really, when I stepped back on the field after those 9 months of being injured, like my confidence totally tanked. So the self doubt, oh my gosh, I've been out 9 months. How do I compete with my teammates who have been playing? Like I was on a really high level team. And so when I got back to playing, I was like overthinking every mistake. I didn't want to play. Like I just felt like I was trapped kind of by my own thoughts. I stopped having fun. I almost quit when I was 15 years old just because I couldn't handle the pressure. I was just not confident, and ultimately I just wasn't having fun anymore. But luckily, like I decided to keep going, and I got recruited to play in college. And in college, my confidence was a little bit better, but it still wasn't great. Like my junior year, I again got injured and confidence went down again. So junior year was horrible, worst season of my life. I was on the bench, I was being a bad teammate, all of the things. And then finally, like between my junior and senior year, I was like, all right, Shay, like you have one more year left, right? And what are you going to make of it? And so I started learning from our sports psychologist at the time. I was in a sports psychologist class and he started working with us a little bit. I started learning from him, started applying what, he was teaching, some of the strategies and how to have the right mindset and all of that stuff. And so then senior year, I turned around and had probably the best season of my life. So I went from sitting on the bench and being a complainer to being a starter, having fun, being a team captain. And so that's what really got me into this is I didn't want other girls to go through what I went through because I felt like I was alone. I felt like I was the only one struggling with it. And it was just like a horrible, experience to my youth career when I wasn't confident. So that's just my big mission is to let girls know, number one, that they aren't alone. And number two, that like the mental training, the confidence, the mindset, like is the missing piece to not only your performance, but also like true happiness and fulfillment in your life.
I can think of, I'm sure that when you're sitting in that position, like, but what drove you to continue going on? Like especially at that young age and then being recruited in college. So, you know, and then after that, like did your college career kind of, because it sounded like you're going pretty good in
Yeah.
college. So then you just like, okay, I'm just retiring and this is what I'm doing? Or do you like, how is that? How did that play out for you?
Yeah. Oh, so when I was 15, the thing that drove me to keep going was really like my whole identity was a soccer player. Like I didn't know what I would do if I wasn't playing soccer, and I just had that dream of playing in college. So that's what drove me in that moment. And then what drove me in college, it honestly wasn't the sport itself. It wasn't that I was obsessed with soccer, that I love soccer. It was that the experience, it was the teammates, the relationships, it was all of those things. And it was like, you know what? I know that I'm going to totally miss this when I'm done, and I do. So I knew that like if I wanted to have a good season, like it was in my control. It wasn't outside of me. And so that's what really drove me in college was just like I want to enjoy this time that I have left because it'll probably be some of the best times of my life.
you not have that kind of relationship with your team when you were younger, or were you just very like on a mission, like by yourself?
Um, kind of both. My team relationships in club as a youth player, they were very, very good. Like we never had drama. We always had great relationships. But in college, it was different. In college, it's like a family. Whereas as a youth player, it's just like I see them a couple times a week. We hang out, but I just didn't know how to talk about my lack of confidence. I didn't know how to talk. And I also had anxiety. I didn't know how to talk about it. At the time, it was something that I was, to be honest, ashamed of. Like I was embarrassed that I wasn't confident. I was embarrassed that I had anxiety, that I was feeling the way I was feeling. And so I think I just kind of internalized everything.
Wow. So now, when did you decide that okay, so what did you do okay, you call it college. In college, I was gonna call it
University.
university because I'm
Yep.
Canadian.
Yep.
What did you do in
Right.
college that drove you or motivated you to then turn this into a business?
Mm. Well, actually, I didn't know it was going to be business until way after. So when I got done with college, university, I started coaching a little bit, but my main goal was to be in athletic administration for a university. Like that's what all my internships were in. So I was in marketing, I was in student athlete academic services. So that was my goal. But when I moved to Sacramento, California, I couldn't find a job. I was like, okay, I couldn't find a job. It was like I didn't know anybody in the area. And so I just dabbled in a bunch of things, just trying to get a job, honestly. So I worked 5 jobs at one time. One of those
Oh,
was coaching, physical therapy, personal training, like 5 jobs at one time. And then I was like, okay, well, I could make a little extra money training kids, like training soccer one-on-one. So I started doing that and I turned that into my full-time business. And then after a couple of years of that, I was like, this isn't what I love. Like I feel like I can help them become more confident, but like it's more focused on the technical side, the physical side. And so I realized that in order for me to like really do what I love, like I need to step away from, the in-person training, like skills training, and I need to get into just like full on like confidence mental training. So I've been doing full on confidence mental training for I think like 2.5 years.